So we got the majority of the folks that flowed into the webinar. We appreciate everybody joining us this morning. It's Thursday, September 2nd, another live webinar series with the Alibi Security team. We value your time and again, really appreciate everyone joining us for this session today. As the title of the webinar suggests, we're going to be talking a lot about Alibi Cloud VS today. And we're going to be covering kind of four main topics today. So the first one is we're going to be talking a lot about the cloud solution and fundamentally how it works and the technology behind cloud. And this was kind of a foundational content section for those of you who are new to cloud or considering adding vSaaS to your security offerings. We'll talk a little bit about just the overall market for cloud and why it's important if you haven't started selling cloud offerings, whether it's video or access, why it's important that you start that now because the demand is off the charts and it's growing exponentially. We also want to cover some of the applications that we're seeing our dealers really succeed in with Alibi Cloud VS. We'll also do a live demo. We've got Bryce Brendan on board with us today. He's our cloud specialist. He'll go through the dashboard. He'll go through the portal. He'll talk a lot about the usability, features, and functionality embedded in the cloud solution and how easy it is to leverage those. And then finally, and I think more importantly, we're going to talk to a couple of our Alibi Security dealer partners who have really taken a hold of cloud and made it work hard in their business, made it work hard for their customers. And more importantly, they're seeing success in selling cloud and how they're messaging it, and how they're really using cloud to deliver exceptional solutions for their potential customers and current customers. So those are the four things we'll cover real quick. We'll dive into those just a second. Just a really quick overview on Alibi Security. As everybody hopefully knows, we're a value-added technology provider, primarily focus on video. We do access. We've got a great partner in 3X Logic and the Infinius solution. And then more importantly, we continue to look forward into what's coming next in the security landscape and have a big focus on cloud-based security, which we're all here to talk about today. Beyond just the gear that we sell and solutions that we sell, we're also heavily invested in support for you, our dealer partners. It's really important that we have senior tenured staff on hand to help you guys solve customer problems. That's why we've got dedicated account managers to help you guys from a pre-sales and post-sales perspective. We've got US-based technical support, which we think is really vital to supporting you guys. We prioritize our dealer partner technical support over anything else because we know when you're up on a ladder, you need answers quick, and we try to deliver that day in, day out. And then for those folks that just don't like marketing, again, I'm the marketing guy. I kind of like marketing, but for those that don't, you'd rather be selling and installing jobs, we also offer paid for marketing services and lead generation. And if you ever want to learn more about that and how we can help optimize your marketing, reach out to your dedicated account manager and ask them about Alibi Arsenal. Okay, it's a great service, turnkey services that we offer that help just take some of the burden of marketing off of you so you can just focus on what you do best. And then more importantly, we've been doing this since 1989. We've been around the block a long time. And our goal is to really make sure we're staying in tune with what's going on in the industry, but more importantly, like I said, looking forward to help bring solutions to market that help you guys grow your business. So that's a little bit about Alibi. And from a presentation perspective, we've got Norman Ragland, who's our director of product development, who's going to be chiming in. He's going to correct all the things that I say wrong because I'm just the dumb marketing guy. We've got Bryce Brendan, who's our cloud sales specialist. He'll be chiming in as well, and more importantly, walking through the demo with you guys. And then, of course, I'm Chris Miller, I'm the director of marketing. I'll be covering a lot of the content on here because it's something I'm fairly passionate and knowledgeable about. But more importantly, like I said, I got the real experts to add in any value-added content or anything that I miss. Later on, we'll bring on Brad and Ken, who are our dealer partners, to cover off some of their dealer testimonials, and they can help you as dealer partners understand the power of Alibi Cloud and their business and how they've seen success with it, which I think is really, really important that you guys hear from that. So before we dive right in, a few of the ground rules. There's a Q&A button in the bottom of your Zoom window. use those for any questions that you guys have along the way. We're going to try to kind of aggregate the questions until the end, just because hopefully we'll answer a lot of the questions during the webinar session. We're going to cover a lot of ground fairly quickly, and I'll try to keep an eye on those questions, and where we can answer questions in line with the topic that we're currently on, we'll do so. Otherwise, we'll kind of address those questions at the end. And obviously anything technical that I can't answer, we've got Norman and Bryce to tackle those. So please use that Q&A feature down at the bottom for any questions you guys have. And of course, any sessions, any content that you'd like to see us provide in the future, any webinar sessions, we always want to hear about those. So put that in the Q&A as well, and we'll try to consolidate that and come up with topics that resonate with you guys as well. All right, so we'll jump in. As we talked about, if you're not selling cloud security solutions, whether it's video or access, now's the time to get started. So if you're on here for the first time, really checking out Alibi Cloud VS, good for you, because the market for cloud is just exploding, right? There's a huge amount of share that's available in the Americas to take advantage of cloud-based security offerings. I think as we've grown Alibi Cloud VS over the last 2 years, I think at the beginning, it was kind of a hard thing for some of our dealer partners to wrap their head around, just because it was so new. I think they're starting to see demand come directly from their customers, where customers are starting to ask for cloud-based solutions, especially from a video perspective, because it's becoming more mainstream out there. So take advantage of the market for it. You're in the right place right now. Learn all you can about cloud. More importantly, listen to our dealer partners about how they're making it work in their business. And our mantra with Alibi Cloud is just simple, scalable, secure. That's the main thing, right? We tried to bring a solution to market that's super easy to deliver and manage. And when we think about Alibi Cloud VS and the simplicity, there's no on-prem recording device. There's no bridge. There's no NVR needed. The camera connects directly to the cloud through some code on the camera and pushes footage directly into the cloud, right? They're literally plug and play. We'll talk a lot about how this makes installs a lot easier, less time consuming, and maintenance a lot easier as well. And the beauty of this is, because it goes camera to cloud, we take out any of those failure points from an on-premise device that can typically occur. We all know that typically recorders and hard drives are the main things that fail on security systems, and that's taken out of this equation. So as long as the camera's running, it's connected to the internet, it's streaming directly to the cloud and can be pulled down from anywhere in the world. And when we talk about unlimited number of cameras, single and multi-site, we're going to dive a lot more into that, because Alibi Cloud VS makes multi-site and multi-user management super, super simple. Then when we talk about scalability, I think some of our dealer partners will talk more about this when we bring them on for their testimonial about cloud, but being able to scale the security solution across a customer's enterprise is really, really powerful. We talk about unlimited cameras. When you have a cloud account, you can put as many cameras on that account as you need anywhere in the world at any location. Multi-site locations or applications are really, really powerful. We'll talk a lot about that when we talk about multi-unit retail, which is really one of those kind of prime opportunities for selling in cloud. And then when we talk about users, we'll go in a little more detail on this too. We actually allow unlimited users on Alibi Cloud. We're not limited like we are with some of the traditional solutions. So one of the things that is beautiful about the cloud technology is that it is super secure. The camera streams directly to a T4 data center, which is really important. When you think about data security, and you think about the highest level of data security, think about financial institutions like Citibank, Chase. Those companies keep all of their data in T4 data centers. We're utilizing the same structure and technology in ours, which is right here in Austin, Texas. 3 times redundancy, 99.9995 availability. So the SLAs there are really, really extremely high. There's fault tolerance built in. And more importantly, the call out in the orange is I think the most important feature here. Because it's cloud-based, there's continuous software and cybersecurity updates, right? That's automatically applied to the system. You don't have to worry about firmware updates. You don't have to worry about, did I download the latest firmware version? Did I apply that to all my customers' recorders? It's already built in. It's already included in this solution, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. I think the key thing you're calling out is that simple part. It's easy, it's simple maintenance. And then what he's calling out here with the servers, your footage is safe and secured. Compared to traditional systems that might be on-prem, or maybe you're running it on a PC, and you might run into some malware or some virus issues that then will take down the whole system. That's kind of the thing that we're guaranteeing with our servers.
Yep, it's a great call out, Norman. And then we should probably include this underneath the simple. I mean, the app is really powerful. It lets you do almost anything you need to do. We've also expanded the viewing capabilities from a desktop client into a web app, which is what Bryce will demo the solution on. Allows for easy offloading of evidence, remote access support as well. If something's going on at your customers and they turn on remote access, or give you access to go into the system to adjust settings. So super powerful app for setting up and managing the system. We always like to talk about the embedded MDR side of things, right? Compared to cloud VS. We have a lot of traditional dealers who, when they look at cloud, they think about the upfront money they get from an embedded NVR, right? And there is, some benefit that from an immediate income stream perspective. But when you think about embedded recorders, and you think about some of the challenges that they inherently have in them, when you talk about remote viewing, there's a lot of port forwarding that goes on. We still know a lot of dealers that port forward, and we always try to tell people, do not port forward, because you're fundamentally opening up a vulnerability in your customer's network. The beauty of Alibi Cloud VS is it creates a temporary, I think it's a TSL handshake, Norman, is that correct? Actually, I'll let the smart technical guy talk about how strong and how secure the connection is when that camera connects to the cloud, because that's one of the questions that's already come in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we're using TLS and SSL. So basically just layering security. So it's basically layers. So imagine SSL is your secure socket layer. It's just basically encryption-based technologies that securely exchange information from, say, a website to visitor. So device to website. So it's kind of doing like a hole punch, where it's just creating a secure transaction between the two, and only these two can talk to each other. So hopefully that at a higher level makes sense, but overall we're using just standard security protocols.
Right, but it's not like it's punching a hole and then leaving it open, right? It's making that connection and then closing that, and then they can talk to each other. Correct.
Right away. That's correct. Yeah. So very secure. In some cases, more secure than P2P is where we're going with this one.
Yeah, and when we get into talking about applications, we'll talk a little bit about compliance, specifically with retail PCI compliance, and then medical HIPAA compliance. Cloud, the cloud solution is so secure that it meets the compliance requirements for those. Okay, and then we talk a lot about user management, and with an embedded solution, there's a limit on the number of users that you can allow access to that recorder, right? So when you think about setting up a customer that's going to have 30, 40, 50 people remotely trying to access a recorder, you're going to run into limitations, whereas with Cloud VS, you're not, right? We'll talk a little bit more about why it's possible to have unlimited users and how it prevents kind of local area network issues based on how that footage is accessed from the cloud, okay? So I'm not going to cover all this, but you can see kind of the pros and cons that Alibi Cloud VS has over the embedded recorder piece. There's just limitations that cloud overcomes. Now, one of the great questions, and I would expect this to come up, so hopefully we're answering in advance, what happens when the internet goes down, right? The camera's connected to the internet, which is connected to the cloud, and as it's streaming, what happens if the internet goes down? Well, probably like 6 months ago, we introduced our SD card auto sync cloud backup option, right? Our Alibi Cloud VS cloud-enabled cameras come with SD slots. We recommend you always sell a camera with an SD card in it, right? Because the scripting that we've embedded, the coding we've embedded in the camera, once it recognizes there's an SD card in there, if the internet goes out, it automatically starts streaming to that SD card, right? So as soon as the internet goes out, footage starts going to the SD card. When the internet comes back up, then it goes back to the cloud, looks at that time frame, and auto syncs that footage back into the right place in the cloud, right? So you may temporarily, if you're live viewing and the internet goes down where the camera is recording, you may lose that live view capability. But then after it syncs back up into the cloud, you'll be able to go back into that footage, and it should be a seamless transition where you won't even notice that the internet went out at on premise. Norman, what you want to add on to that?
Yeah, for sure. It's A&R technology, so automatic network replenishment is stuff that technology that we were implementing on Alibi lineup as well as what we have in the cloud. So it's very important. If you, as Chris stated, network goes down, it starts to dump to the SD card. Depending on how long your network goes down, and I know Chris mentioned instantly, there's a little bit of a file transfer time to kick it back up to the server, but it's just depending on the file size and how long your server down, it might take a couple minutes to 10 minutes just to get the information back up to the server.
Yeah, and I think with the SD card, right, Norman, let's say the internet goes down for a day. I think we sell SD cards that'll cover you up to like 24 hours of recording. Is that correct?
Yeah, so 128. Some of our new models will support 256. As long as everything's set up, on motion, and you have everything set up correctly, we should be able to get a couple of days in most cases. It just depends on how much activity you have on scene.
Yeah, if it's continuous recording, you'll obviously get less. If it's just motion activation, you'll get a lot more. But
sure.
but the team, Norman and the team have done a great job of building in redundancy, because that is the one thing when we initially launched, we didn't have this. So it was high on our roadmap to get it done. Now you have that answer to your customers that says, hey, okay, what happens when the internet goes down? You've got
exactly. Yeah. I mean, the key thing with cloud, is mainly, reduce your risk of data loss. So, internet goes down. The biggest thing we heard is like, hey, it's not recording right now. So this is a way that we're able to fix it.
Yeah. Thanks, Norman. So really for your customers, right? Because we talk about how easy it is for you guys to set up, manage, all that good stuff, right? For your customers, it's lower cost of ownership. They're going to have a lower bill out of the gates because you're not having to sell them or record it, right? So sometimes that's appealing for them, even with the subscription costs that come with cloud. There's lower maintenance. If you have commercial customers that have that don't have an IT staff or do have an IT staff, you're basically pulling maintenance requirements off of their plate. So you're lowering their cost of maintaining the security solution. You don't have to open ports, right? You eliminate the potential that your hard drive is going to crash, that your recorder is going to crash, right? Your data is always protected in the cloud, to Norman's point that he just made. Again, unlimited multi-site, the scalability of the cloud solution surpasses the typical embedded solution. So those are kind of some of the key selling points and things that you guys need to keep in mind when you're talking to your customers about the benefits of cloud.
I think one of the big ones too is that increased accessibility. You pretty much access it from anywhere, so they're at home or maybe they're at the office, they have some type of device where they can have access to their information.
Yeah, and with the new web app, it's access is even greater, right? You just
mobile or
log in, you can go anywhere.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about multi-site solutions, because I always harp on multi-site, multi-user. Those are kind of the easiest selling options for cloud. With the traditional multi-site solution, you got a customer that's got retail stores all over the city or in multiple states. You've got to go in and typically sell a DVR, NVR for each location, and then add cameras to that, right? And that all comes back in from a remote viewing perspective. Well, with the cloud solution, all you're doing is you're going out to each of those locations, you're adding cameras at those unique individual locations to that cloud account. And then all those locations can be accessed through the portal, right? The desktop client, the mobile app, the web app. So it makes tying all of those locations into one dashboard, into one place, organizing that app, that dashboard, which Bryce will go into in more detail later on. One of the things I like to think about is a multi-unit retail franchise, right? A lot of times franchises, right, they're all built the same. They're all organized the same, right? They've all got standard operating procedures that they're expected to manage to. One of the nice things about this cloud solution is you add on each of those locations onto the same account. All those cameras get pulled in. You can set up unique zones. So you could have a zone that says manager's office. All those manager's office from each of those locations can be isolated on one view in the dashboard. You want to look at the POS and what's going on at checkout, across all the locations. Set up a POS zone, add all those cameras into that POS zone. Then you can view all those locations in one place at one time concurrently. It's just a super powerful, easy to manage solution that I think when Bryce goes through the demo, when we say easy, you'll see how easy it really is. And then with multi-user, right? Let's say you've got multi-site franchises, then you've got multi-users, and you've got a regional manager that needs access to the system. You've got a GM that needs access to the system. You've got a corporate loss prevention manager that wants access to the network, right? So they all need live viewing or remote access, right? Well, with traditional systems, what we've mentioned before is typically in order to give access to remote viewing or live viewing of that system remotely, you've got to punch holes in the local area network, right? And typically port forwarding is the thing that's chosen. Well, we always tell people don't port forward, especially in this day and age. Do not port forward. You're creating a vulnerability in your customer's network that you don't want to be held responsible for. So we push people to P2P. P2P is a lot more secure, right? But you still have that hole that can potentially be, through very smart hackers, potentially be accessed. It's less likely, but it potentially could be, right? And then you got that NVR or DVR on site that's all running through. With cloud, literally you can add as many users as you want. Unlike the traditional, I think you max out around 32, and you also have to be aware on the traditional side of things. If you get all these people accessing footage at the same time, it can significantly drag on the local network, right? Versus with cloud, because all the footage is going up to the cloud, everybody's accessing the footage from the cloud. So when you talk about the local network at the local location level, there's no impact on that. So you can literally have hundreds of people hitting that data center to retrieve footage without any impact at the local level, which is really, really powerful. Those cameras are going up to the cloud, people are accessing the cloud in order to get that footage. So it just removes a lot of the vulnerabilities from a traditional system perspective and eliminates multi-user credential maximums and any kind of bandwidth issues that you may be experiencing when people are trying to pull footage or view footage from a traditional. Norman, do you want to add anything else to that, or did I do an okay job covering that?
No, just, overall, a lot of times we see third-party software requires credentials to load on certain PCs. A lot of employees or users don't have full admin rights for certain controls. So that's kind of the benefit of being able to have a browser-based or mobile app-based interface, especially for multi-site. Many years ago when we were introducing network recorders and we had this specialized software to view it, the biggest heartbreak was just not being able to install that software on everybody's computer or having access over it because they don't have admin rights. So this just makes it easier. Overall, less equipment, easy installation, and then just less maintenance overall.
Yeah, and the great thing about cloud as well, if you've got 8 users here and you want to give all those users individual access to individual cameras or a group of cameras, or only give them access to cameras by day part, from 8 to 5 during the day, but then they don't get access to it. You can do that at the individual level. Joe can have access to camera 1 from 8 to 5. Susie can have access to camera 2 from 8 to 5. Josie can have access to camera 1, 2, and 3 all the time. You can literally set up credential management by user at a super micro level with the cloud solution. And Another little chart that just kind of compares multi-user capabilities across the two different solutions, right? So with embedded recorders, you've got limited viewing. There's bandwidth issues that come into play there. With cloud, it's unlimited. As Norman mentioned, the remote access type. So it's an outbound TLS handshake, right? Super secure, helps you meet compliance requirements. Account management, unlimited. Again, we talk a lot about unlimited this, unlimited that. Well, that's the beauty of cloud, is it really gives you the flexibility. Now we want to talk a little bit about applications. So as we've had cloud out there in the marketplace for the last couple of years, I think it's coming up on, I think it was 2 years and last month, right? We've really found some sweet spots where cloud is a great solution for your potential customers, right? So with retail is awesome because especially when you look at the franchise landscape, they need to meet certain compliance requirements from a PCI perspective because they're handling customer credit card information. That means you've got to have an ultra secure or a solution that meets the security requirements for PCI and will not potentially expose customer credit card information through their local area network. And a lot of times what you'll find is when you have an embedded solution on there and you open up ports or put P2P remote access on there, if they do a PCI audit on their local area network for that location, it will typically flag the security solution, right? Because it is not compliant with the networking standards to protect that customer information, right? Besides PCI compliance, like I said, it gives you the ability to take those multi-site locations, if you've got a franchise or a retailer with multiple locations, bring them into one dashboard, and really makes it easy for them to manage and see what's going on operationally in their environment. Again, with multi-user management, we talk about pet facilities, right? Pet boarding facilities, nursing homes, daycare centers, preschools. You think about daycares where they drop off their kid and then they give them access to video. And if you want to take Bob, who's got his daughter Sally in the daycare, and she's in the toddler room, and there's one camera in the toddler room, you can assign Bob as a user, right, at that facility, access to that one camera from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? That's the only camera that he would be able to access. What we found is that as our dealer partners are out there selling the solution, they found ways to not only sell cloud into a customer, but to educate that customer on how they can monetize that solution so they pay for the initial investment and the ongoing subscription charges. For example, one of our dealer partners here in Austin sold a hybrid solution, a traditional security solution for the facility itself, and then 10 cloud cameras into a volleyball facility. So the traditional system secures the building. The cloud solution is hung in the facility over courts, so parents can remotely watch their kids play volleyball in tournaments and or capture practice video, and they monetize that, right? They paid for the solution within the first year, and cloud's been just a huge win, right? Obviously, when we get more into kind of multi-user, multi-camera installations, bandwidth becomes something you want to be really cognizant about. You want to make sure that when you have streaming set up and you're going to be uploading or streaming, multiple cameras, you gut check the customer bandwidth up. That's all we're really concerned about. And just think a good rule of thumb is 2 megs per camera. If you're going to stream at full resolution, full frame rate, the cameras stream up to the cloud maximum at 2 megs. So you need 2 megs per camera up. If you cover that within their upload bandwidth, you're great, right? Also from a multi-site perspective, we talked about restaurants, but also school campuses. If you've got facilities that have a big annex or a guard gate, and you want to attach that as part of one single system and make that viewable from anywhere, as long as you can get it on the internet and add it to the account, that camera will be part of the dashboard, right? It just simplifies maintenance. You don't have to worry about putting another recorder there, creating a wireless situation where you're transmitting that back with a receiver, an antenna. So, the applications for multi-site are really, really unlimited, and it's a super flexible solution.
Yeah, I think one of the big feedbacks we get from the IT directors or LP guys is just the ease of mind of not having to be responsible for that data. That's like one of the big feedbacks that we hear. It's like, do you want to be responsible for this data, or do you want someone else to manage it for you? We see a lot of IT directors, a lot of loss prevention. Once they kind of look into what's required to manage that data, especially if it's on-prem, times recorders can fail. If they do fail, your video is possibly gone or not available anymore. So there's a huge liability by not being able to provide that video. So ease of mind is what we're seeing a lot from, especially from IT directors, what we hear.
Yeah, and that's a great call out, Norman. IT directors are always looking for better solutions to make their life easier.
Yeah.
Right. When you start talking about putting more equipment that their team has to manage on premise, they start getting nervous, right?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Another thing for me to manage with already tight staff, right? Too much work, too few people. And, the ability of cloud to meet some of these legal and legal compliance requirements. You think about cannabis. They have some off-premise recording requirements or storage requirements that they must meet. Cloud's perfect for that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect for it. And the same with medical. If you've got medical facilities, you have these urgent care facilities that are popping up all over the place. If they want security and they don't want to mess with trying to figure out how they attach a security and embedded solution on site and still maintain HIPAA requirements, cloud's a great solution for them.
And this is exactly right. I mean, that's the big thing, is just making it easy for them to keep the video secured. That's one of the big ones is, medical and the cannabis market. We're seeing a lot of growth with our dealers through that, especially if you're in a state that's medical or recreational. Most of them are requiring off-site storage of some type. At the beginning, it was, we would need 90 days or 120 days at this resolution. And then they realized, it's not a smart idea to keep the recorder on-prem.
Yep.
So keeping it off-site, cloud up, cloud video, that's what we're seeing is growing, especially in that particular market.
Right.
I was
going to say, why don't you talk a little bit about NDAA compliance, because that question came up. Talk about right now our camera solutions are not NDAA compliant, but we've got that coming up.
Yep, that's correct. So the current cameras we're offering right now are witness line cameras that we're able to put a code onto it. We are releasing some NDAA compliance cameras. I think the time frame is end of October. It's something we're trying to rush in a little bit sooner, but this lineup will be a 4-megapixel lineup. They will all be NDAA compliant, Starlight chipset, SD card for backup. And then the models that we're able to put microphones or some type of alarm IO, we're adding that to those models as well. Thank you, Richard, for that one.
Yep, cool. All right, so that's enough of me talking. Norman, I appreciate you adding on and correcting me, but now let's get to the live demo. I think this is where you'll really start to see some of the power of Alibi Cloud.
For sure.
Bryce, take it away, man.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Just want to take a quick second to say thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. I think it will pay off in dividends. I think you'll get a lot of very useful information. So really appreciate you making the time. The first thing that I like to hit on here with the actual interface is, the underlying theme you'll hear me just beat to death is just how ridiculously simple all of this is. So, I'm guilty sometimes myself even of underselling that. But when you're talking about giving an end user a system that, you can really give them the keys and then kind of take off and not worry about them, crashing and burning, cloud really is, a much better system in that regard. So the first page here, which is called our dashboard view, you can kind of see right off the bat, how we're able to organize a decent sized account. Obviously, they get a lot bigger than 15, but I've basically got 2 categories of cameras here. I've got my Anderson Mill. and I've got my Shoal Creek, and then I've got the cameras within. So these are actually two different properties on other sides of town here in Austin, Texas. So this is a great example of how we can actually tie together multiple locations. That alone is probably the number one benefit that I talk about on a daily basis with end users, is just being able to tie together multiple properties, or even larger campuses where they may have 3 or 4 boxes in one campus. Happens all the time. So basically, as long as we can get these cameras to have a power and an internet connection, we link them to the account. We come in here, we put them wherever we want to, organize it, into whatever zones we'd like. Then we can go in and we can manage them very quickly and very easily. For your accounts where you do have really high number of cameras, you can even come here and search for specific cameras. But main point here is you should be able to find a specific camera out of a couple hundred very quickly.
Well, and I think, Bryce, as you were showing that dashboard, right? Even though we had 2 different locations, this is a restaurant chain in Austin. They've organized each of those locations the same. So you can see they got dining area, main line, main register, right? They've got similar camera positions in each location, and then they've organized them by location. But if they want to quickly flip between the dining area and both of those, I mean, they could create a separate zone that says dining area, and it would pull in. They could put both of those dining area cameras in one zone and view all the dining areas at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So a really good example of this would be, a common request I get are like the POS cameras or the cash register cameras. So what we can do here on our live view is, we can do a 1, a 4, or a 9 on the web-based application. The software will actually let you go all the way up to 25. But I can come here and let's say I want to have, all the different registers from both properties pull up. Super simple. Just come here, click and drag them over. And then live view is probably going to be pretty similar to what you guys are used to for most of your solutions. The one big kind of call out that I like to mention is a lot of cloud that's out there right now, you'll experience a pretty high level of latency and buffering and, FPS drops, those types of things. But you can see here, like if we go to this full frame, I think we're on like 12 frames a second right now. Very little latency, very smooth. Like Chris was saying, we put these in sporting facilities. We've got them in like ping pong facilities. Even you can watch little ping pong balls going 30 miles an hour, however fast they hit them. But latency is very, very low.
Well, and I do want to point out, right? Most cloud solutions, if not all of them, only support 2 megapixel resolution, right? And I know that we have a lot of dealer partners that sell 4, 6 meg traditional SIS solutions. And while that's great, right? The 2 meg, what you were just looking at, is a 2 meg image at a low frame rate. And it's super clear, provides all the clarity that this customer needs, right? So I guess my point is, don't let the 2 meg, which may seem like a low resolution to you guys if you're selling higher res, don't let that scare you, because the quality is actually really, really good and customers are typically really happy with it.
Yeah, I think overall, I'm sorry if I could, I'll just chime in. Yeah, I think it's, we've trained ourselves to think higher megapixel, but 2 meg traditionally will have enough pixel density, within this type of environment, as you can see there. My 2 cents.
Yeah, what I tell dealers is, try to avoid selling cloud on paper or getting freaked out by cloud on paper with resolution, because I mean, when we get this in front of a customer and show that actual system to them, get it in front of their face, I mean, we've never had anybody complain about the resolution. It's crisp.
And I mentioned 4 meg earlier, guys. That is, we are, going to future proof ourselves for the future. So not saying that this is, where we're maxed out at. The plan is to be able to support higher res, and that's the reason why we're bringing in 4, and we're looking at even some 4K models as well, just to future proof you guys. So we're bringing in these models. You could bring them in, and then as soon as we're able to offer that higher res upgrade, that would be something we could push.
Yeah, and it's all about asking the right probing questions for your customers, right? If we always want to make sure that they have a great experience, no matter how many cameras are going to be putting on the solution. And you look at these locations here, they've got 1, 2, 3, they've got like 8 per location roughly, right? So 8 times 2 on the maximum side of things, you would just need to make sure that this customer per location has, I would say, 16 to 20 up. That covers off them streaming these cameras at full resolution, full frame rate, right? And then they won't run into any kind of buffering issues. But it's an important thing to talk to your customers about. If you're going to install 20 cameras at a single location, that customer needs to make sure they've got 40 megs up, right? And that's probably going to mean that they have fiber. If they're committed to fiber and paying that monthly, great. We're gonna have no problem streaming cloud cameras at their location.
Yep, it's a great call out. So everything else on live is pretty straightforward, guys. I think the bigger thing that I talk about on a daily basis, and this is going to be a pretty big differentiator for the product in general. It's going to be a lot different than both NVR-based systems and other cloud-to-cloud compares out there. So what's really unique about our cloud offering is that we do have a 24/7 recording, which is also direct camera to cloud. So typically what you're going to see in the market right now is event-based cloud recording with like primary storage on the actual camera itself locally, and then it'll push like clips, and you'll usually get a certain amount of clips per month or per year or something like that. So this is kind of the inverse of that. We sell cloud by default so that you have the security of having all your mission critical data on the cloud without having to worry about, any storage limitations or, being reliant on an analytic or a motion push to get it to the cloud. But then, a pain point for people, especially if they sell recorders, is if you offer a continuous recording, a lot of the time people are kind of stuck going back searching for hours and hours to find an event after it takes place. So don't worry, you're not going to have to do that because you do actually have AI built in these cameras as well. And then you can tell them what you want to be kind of notified of. So you'll notice on the bottom here, I've got this big footage timeline, and I can go back and I can watch any of this footage that I'd like to, doesn't matter if I have an event taking place or not. But then I do have these analytics that I've set up, and you can even get like a full thumbnail preview here, for example, and then we can go back and find those instances very quickly. So instead of having to worry about setting it up on either motion or continuous and, having to worry about setting up the sensitivity. So, it's either going to be so sensitive, you're going to get a bunch of false positives, or it's going to not be sensitive enough and you're going to miss something mission critical, right? So we want to avoid both of those. This kind of gives you that happy medium of you're going to have everything no matter what, but it's not going to take you forever to go find it. Then if I want to export it, super easy. I click export. I choose my time frame I want to save. The web app will let you do 30 minutes. That's the max. The software, go crazy, do whatever you want. Click export, you save it onto your device, you're good to go. You can save footage from the web app, the desktop app, the mobile app, whatever you want to do. Shoot it to the cops. Don't need a special player. There'll be a mp4.cmm.mov, whatever, based off whatever you choose. So really easy to download and share. And when I talk to like loss prevention managers, IT directors who are kind of stuck with pulling footage after an incident takes place, when you show them how easy this is, they usually, become your best friend pretty quick. And another tab that we have specifically set up to finding stuff faster as well as this events tab. So what this is just a nice filterable way to look at your entire system for a certain time frame. And then I can come in here and I can say, dial it down by what cameras I'm interested in, what day, what time of day, what type of analytic event. So I can get rid of object if I'm only caring about people. Then I can look at all these previews that the system has, tagged as an event. In this case, this person. Hover over it, get a nice little preview, go right into it. If I need to export it, send it to the cops, whatever. But just another way to help you not spend a bunch of time looking back for events. It is pretty easy to set these up. Again, you're not having to go set like motion sensitivities or anything like that. All you're going to do is tell the system if you want to be notified of a person detection or an object. So a person, it's just going to be people. You could have trees, vehicles, shadows. It's not going to tag any of it. You're just going to get people. You can generalize it a little bit if you'd like. If you do care about vehicles or like large moving pieces of equipment, maybe in like a warehouse setting. So you can generalize it, put it on object. Object, however, is not general motion, so you're still going to cut down on false positives quite a bit. So once we tell the system what we care about, we can tell it where we care about it. So we can set our specific parameters where we want these to take place. Super simple. We can come in here, draw whatever custom area we want. We can also do like a tripwire, or you guys probably refer to it as a line crossing. Someone crosses that, I get a tag. And again, the big takeaway here is nothing I'm doing right now is affecting the actual, storage of the system, because we're going to have it by default. This is all about putting a tag so I can go back and I can find it and search for it. And then also another thing we can do based off of these as well is we can be notified. Obviously, a really common request is person detections after hours for a business. Super simple. You come in here, put it on a schedule. You can choose push notifications, email notifications. I could come here, let's say if I want to get rid of business hours, whatever those may be, get rid of them, you're good to go. And that's pretty much it as far as the notifications. Kind of hitting on the multi-user capabilities that Chris kind of alluded to earlier. You can give an unlimited amount of users access. So if that's, it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with the larger rollouts and the multi-user rollouts, especially where you may have property managers, or take, for example, a medical facility that'll have, an IT director and then a bunch of people underneath him. So we can come in here, create as many people as we want, and then we can also control everything they're allowed to do. So all these permissions I can grant or deny. There's about 36 of them, so you can get pretty darn specific with it. You can also come to the cameras tab. You can control access by zone or by specific cameras. So for example, if I had property manager for Anderson Mill location, if he doesn't need to see the Shoal Creek, we can come in here and just get rid of it. Or we can choose to get rid of certain cameras as well. So basically, long story short, you can set up a user however you would like to without having to worry about them messing something up. And if something does get messed up, you do have a full audit log as well. So you can come in here for whatever time frame you want and get all the information as down to as specific as somebody logging in. And then you can get some details based off of it as well, by what device logged in and those types of things. So if somebody does mess up, pretty easy to find it. And then really kind of the last big thing that I normally cover without getting too nitty gritty on the actual demo is kind of inherent in it being a cloud system. It's updating. You'll notice my firmware version here, we're up to date. Firmware updating, new additions to the platform, anything this system is going to need to play nice with things you try to add to it in a year, 3 years, 10 years from now, it's happening automatically. So this drastically cuts down on having a mismatched systems that don't play nice together. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that buy a recorder 6 months down the road, buy cameras to add to it, doesn't work, so they end up buying a second box. You're not really having to worry about those technologies advancing and you getting left behind, and you're also not worrying about the rip and replace that's incurred with having to change your entire system because things don't play nice together anymore. So this really is meant to be a lot more of a future-proof system in the sense that it's constantly updating. Yeah, you may have to, replace a camera 4 or 5 years down the road, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than replacing an entire system, and you're not having to learn a whole new operating system. And that's probably as in-depth as I'll go right now.
That's great, Bryce. So one thing I'll implore everybody who's attending today is, if you want a more in-depth demo, reach out to your dedicated account manager or Bryce, and he is more than happy to spend as much time with you guys to make sure you're comfortable with the solution. Also, Bryce does demos day in, day out, not only for our dealer partners, but for end users. So if you guys have a customer that's interested in cloud, you're not super comfortable with the solution yet, call Bryce, get him involved. He will be more than happy to set up and run a demo for your end user, just like he did right here. Answer any other questions, address any of their concerns, show them how easy the solution is. Bryce is our cloud specialist. He's dedicated to helping support you guys in any way possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that the number one thing that I'll offer to you on the cloud side is that end user demo. We usually run about 80% or better close rate. So more than happy to do it. Just let me know.
Cool. Thanks, Bryce. So there's a question that just came in from Craig. Thanks for the question. Says if you have an existing Alibi client that has standard non-cloud cameras and an NVR, will we have to replace the entire system for cloud? So Norman, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, as long as they're witness IP cameras, and I'll let Bryce correct me, but it's something that we can activate for you guys. So if you have existing systems that you already have installed out there, we can turn 1 to however many cameras you want on.
Yeah, as long as it's a supported model, it's
Yeah.
it's as simple as sending you the firmware and creating an account.
Yes. So with that said, I'd reach out to your dedicated account manager or Bryce, and we can do some research to see what cameras you're talking about, see if they're able to be cloud enabled. Cool. So I'm going to quickly run through this. As we're talking about cloud, it's obvious to everybody we're not the only cloud solution out in the marketplace, right? We don't purport to be. We think we're better in a lot of respects than other people, but we're not the only one out there. So when you're talking about cloud, we're talking about residential and commercial, and the purpose of these slides is really to say, do your research on who you may be competing with out there, right? If you're selling in the residential, there's a couple low-hanging, obvious competitors out there, right? Ring is a big one, Arlo, Nest, the Alarm.com. We run into a lot of Alarm.com. Just know how you're messaging the differences between cloud and those competitors, right? If somebody wants 24/7 full motion recording, they're not going to get it through those other services unless they pay an additional fee for it. With Alarm.com, you got to have an SVR. You have to have additional hardware on site in order to be able to get 24/7 recording. A lot of the services only offer clips, and you have to be really careful with clips. I know I have a Ring doorbell camera at my house. That thing, when it captures motion, it's kind of iffy because it's really slow to fire up. It's almost like it has to power on, and you never know if you're going to get the pieces of the clip that you really need, and if an event occurs, right? So that's an important thing to know. If you've got a customer that wants a scalable solution, we're unlimited, right? We can do multi-site. Some of these other guys do unlimited, but it's single site. So know what challenge you're trying to solve with your customers, so you're able to address those with Alibi Cloud, right? And then from a commercial perspective, we run into Verkada and Rhombus a lot. Very similar solutions out there. Big names, they do a lot of marketing, a lot of noise in the marketplace, right? Understand the difference between Alibi Cloud VS and those solutions, right? If you want a solution for your customer that is continuous, we're one of the only ones to do that. Like I said, unless you want to put an SVR on Alarm.com, or unless you want to spend a lot more per camera with Verkada and Rhombus. They have plans that'll do 24/7, but it's not built in. Honestly, Verkada and Rhombus, it's cool technology, but the thing is their cameras they have like hard drives built into them. Norman can probably talk better about this, but their cameras are super expensive. They have little hard drives in them, and those buffer out to the cloud on an event basis, right? They don't 100% stream. So when a customer is looking at Verkada or Rhombus, they just need to understand what they're going to get for the dollars, for the money that they're spending. And more importantly, if they ever want to do anything with those cameras in the future, they can't do them. Versus us, if customers wanted to go with cloud initially and then revert back to a traditional solution, they can do that with our cameras. You can't do that with those other solutions.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking back to equipment, so expensive equipment on-prem with those guys, expensive contracts for storage. When you look at some of those contracts, they're hundreds of thousands of dollars just for a handful of cameras. So there's a lot of savings, with the cloud VS. And as we just mentioned, if you already have existing witness, that's something we could turn on very easily.
Yep. So just do your research. That's the bottom line, is do your research, understand who you might be competing out in the marketplace against, and know kind of those proof points on how we're different. I'm not saying we're better in all respects, but we compete really well against those solutions. And a lot of times when you dollar this thing out for the customer, they understand how much money they can save, and they get just as much with Alibi Cloud VS. And then more importantly, what's in it for you, right? We talked about kind of what's in it for the customer. Well, you earn upfront money for installation, right? It's not like we're pulling all the money out of installation for you guys. You're just not having to install a recorder or an on-prem recording device. Install cameras, hook it up to the network, attach it to the account, you're done. There's still dollars from an installation perspective. But fundamentally, you reduce your installation times, right? So you're saving time on the front end by just installing cameras instead of everything else that you normally have to do. And ultimately, when we talk about the software side of things and eliminating the need for an on-prem device, you're minimizing your service calls. I think Brad, one of our Alibi dealer partners who we'll get on here in just a second, will talk a lot about that because it makes you more efficient in your business. And then more importantly, you can generate recurring monthly revenue. That's something we talk a lot about. But until you start seeing that mailbox money come in, then it doesn't really feel real. But when you really take on cloud, you really embrace it, and you start selling this into your customers, and you see how low maintenance is and how it delivers really well for your customers. And then you start getting those checks, you start getting super excited. So with that, I want to hand it over to Bryce, who will introduce and talk with our dealer partners, just talk about how they've made the transition from traditional solutions to cloud and really the impact it's had on their customers and their business.
Yeah, so I think first off, I'd like to introduce Brad Meeks. He's with S2M Solutions. He's been one of our advocates kind of from the beginning, one of the first guys to kind of recognize and apply the benefits, I guess you could say. So Brad, I think what I would love for you to kind of give us some insight on is, what kind of pushed you to cloud initially, maybe especially in your, larger rollouts, and what benefits have you personally seen from going cloud-based versus a traditional-based system?
Well, thanks. Well, first of all, the pain points. Part of it was my pain points, and some of it was my customer pain points. So I have a franchise that every time that they would change a property manager at one of their multi-site locations, I would get emails or calls to make sure everybody has access to all the cameras at all the locations. Well, with traditional systems, many times, something will change on the network or the internet. So now you do not have any type of remote access. So it physically was a truck roll. So that was one reason I was trying to find a way to, simplify my life just a little bit. And in doing so, I've also been able to simplify my customers' lives. Part of that now, when a person changes roles, locations, or rolls completely out of the business and a new one rolls in, literally just in a few seconds, I can delete the old person across the board, not at multiple locations, and add the new person in very quickly. And even though it did solve one of my pain points, my customers noticed how fast we're able to respond to them now. They're not seeing me having to run all over the Metroplex trying to change user credentials in NVRs or DVRs or what have you. So the pain point was resolved starting there. And then as we continued on, the multi-site location, the ability for corporate down in one location in Dallas to jump in and look at their locations across Texas and Arizona and Florida and what have you very quickly and very easily started to become something that they just expected of us. So it grew into a very solid solution for one of my multi-site franchise customers.
That's great. Yeah. And would you say, you kind of hit on it a little bit, but was there anything that really stood out as far as, your actual end user, getting on using the system, just as far as accessibility, ease of use? Do you have any, feedback that they've shared with you on that?
Yes. I mean, it did definitely simplify. And we had some locations that had DVRs. We had locations that had NVRs. Now being able to jump on with one portal, jumping around from, Florida over to Phoenix real quickly, looking at all of the lobby cams or what have you, has been something that they have noticed a much greater ease. Obviously, we're not, as discussed earlier, installing software that may be limiting if they do not have admin credentials, or we have to get some type of other department involved. So it's very easy to do. And then, of course, the phone app is super easy. And again, if we have somewhere where we need to create some very custom credentials, maybe a certain person only has access to certain sites, and on those sites, maybe only certain cameras on those sites, it's very easily done. So they, the less that they have to call me, the happier they are. And they feel like anytime that they do have to call us, we knock things out. We knock it out very quickly and efficiently. And they're extremely happy with this. And we're already in the process of upgrading some of their older sites off of the NVR and DVR infrastructure to the cloud. So.
And the less they call you, the happier you are too, Brad, right?
Right. I mean, if your customer is calling you all the time, there is a point in time when they start going, you know what, maybe this person is not providing the solution,
right,
or the hardware, or maybe they don't have the expertise. And then that gets customers looking. So when customers do not have to call you very often, or when they do, it's a pleasurable call rather than, oh, we got to call the dealer. Most of the time when they're calling me, it's to add a new location or they're buying another location. So usually the conversations start becoming very pleasant. You look for your customers to call you because it's an opportunity for you. And most of the time it's an income opportunity for you because they're wanting to add more because they've been happy. If they're calling you all the time griping at you, then it's going to be hard to let go of a few dollars when they call you. So
it's great input.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate you as always,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes. So next we're going to have Ken or Kenny Knapp. He is from Real Sound, and he, I think the big thing I kind of want Ken to hit on here is, one of the most common things that I, as a sales guy, hear from our dealer base is how tentative they are to pitch a subscription in the first place, because they're either assuming that the customer is going to immediately shut down and not want to have a monthly payment, or they may get a little bit of pushback and they don't feel that they're able to justify the payment. So Ken has a lot of experience in kind of overcoming sales objections, kind of pushing the subscription-based model and communicating its benefits very effectively. So Ken, if you wouldn't mind, just give me a little bit of insight here to share kind of, how you overcome those obstacles, or even if they, you allow them to even arise maybe, but let's go ahead and share some feedback on that if you don't mind.
Well, Bryce, to your point about the objections and the subscriptions, as you know, I know a lot of it I said in jest in the early days of this, but I really didn't get into the month-to-month conversation, if you will. I only spoke in annual. And I kind of took it from how I like to pay my bills, which is I prefer, if there's an opportunity to pay for the year, I do that. And what I found is when I presented it that way to my clients, they felt the exact same way. And when I would just say it's an annual fee, they're like, "You sure I don't have to, it's not a month to month?" "No, sir, ma'am. Here's your total cost for the year. Good to go," and very, very few objections when I took that approach. But the one thing I want to touch upon is just like Brad had just said, as we've grown with this cloud thing now over a year, I don't even really talk about NVR solutions anymore. And people love it's a really easy sell. And what I'm finding is the calls I'm getting, sounds like Brad indicated, I'm getting calls, and I just got one this week, to add more cameras. They love it so much, separate buildings on their property, like our lake property. We're going to add 8 more cameras to the community center now within the next few weeks. These are the kind of calls I'm getting now. It's tremendous, and it's wonderful.
And Ken, that's a really good call out. I want to hit on that real quick. The power of the annual subscription has become very apparent, especially in the past 6 months, I would say. I think for a lot of end users, it's easier to make that kind of mental connection between the money they're going to save on the hardware and an annual price. It's a little bit more muddy when you try to make that comparison to a monthly price. Plus, then, just like Ken was alluding to, like Amazon Prime, I'm not sure that I would pay for it if it was monthly, right? I'd rather just get it all out of the way on the annual. So yeah, no, that's a really good call out, Ken. And one other just quick question for you, Ken. You kind of hit on, you have a lot of people that, kind of, they come to you and just say, hey, Ken, give me what you recommend. And you're kind of off of the NVR based systems, but is there ever like an aha moment where you're like, oh yeah, this is a cloud opportunity? Are there any common denominators there? Or is it just, we're doing cloud for everything now?
Yeah, honestly, I view every opportunity as a cloud opportunity anymore. I don't even entertain the NVR conversation anymore. And I do that for a lot of reasons. And it's not just about the RMR. The RMR, the mailbox checks are wonderful. I got one for $950 or whatever it was yesterday. Just, they just come, and that's wonderful. But I see it as an opportunity to continue to be in front of that client in a positive light throughout the years. And if you know your clients well, and that's just old school, you should always be asking questions and know beyond today's solution, what you're doing, whether it's selling them an AV system or whatever, what you're trying to fulfill for them. Get to know your client. What do they do? Because there's probably an opportunity there. So many of my clients that I'm doing these cloud systems for started out as mid to high end AV clients, residential clients. And not only are we putting cameras in their homes, now they're calling me and saying, hey, Kenny, like this big Kansas City project, that client runs and manages large multi-site recovery centers for drug addiction. And now we're going to put 66 cameras in his facility in Kansas, and we're going to end up doing several of them in Florida and South Carolina. That guy started out as a residential client, but I knew what he did for a living, and I made sure he knew there are other things that we could offer. So I was the first guy he called, when they were doing this. It's important. Know what your clients a little bit beyond what you're doing today, I guess. Those cloud opportunities are there.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome. Very welcome.
Yeah, Kenny and Brad, thanks so much for your time. We're super excited about the success you guys are seeing with cloud. And, as always, our dealer partners are an invaluable source of feedback for us. So, keep the input coming as we continue to look at the solution and make it better. So I think we've done a good job of hitting all the Q&As throughout the session. So there are no unanswered ones right now, which is awesome. An important thing I always like to note as the marketing guy is we have tons of resources out on our YouTube channel. It's Alibi Security. Tons of videos on embedded solutions, tons on cloud. We've got application specific videos out there. Spend some time looking at our Alibi Security channel, specifically the cloud playlist, and just get more familiar with it. And finally, like I said, if you want a live demo, if you want to get a little more in depth with Bryce, reach out to him. He's happy to spend time with you to help you understand the solution so you go out and sell it and be successful. You can get in touch with a dedicated account manager here. Bryce can be reached through this number as well, right? And more importantly, Bryce's email, we should have put this up on the screen. We did not, but it's Bryce, BRYCE.Brendan, BRENDEN @alibisecurity.com. You can reach out to him there, ping him with any questions. I really encourage you guys to set up a demo. Demos are super powerful. He'll go a lot more in depth to answer any questions you may have. So that's all we've got today, folks. Bryce, Alibi team, more importantly, Ken and Brad, we appreciate your time today. It's been great to kind of reestablish foundations, talk about the technology behind cloud, but more importantly, talk about the opportunities to go out and really add an invaluable new offering to your security solution set. Embrace cloud, learn how it can work for you and your business, and get those RMR checks coming in. Look for more webinars. Go out to our education page on alibisecurity.com. Sign up. We've got another one coming up next week on Vigilant. But more importantly, if you have any questions at all, reach out to us. We're here to support you guys. Thanks so much for your time today.
I guess.
Thank you.